Well, from sports to business news now, Stephen Carroll joins me this morning. Hello to you, Stephen.
Hello.
We're going to start off with the Governor of England, who's been speaking out again in the week of the Brexit.
The Bank of England, as we should point out.
Oh, the Bank of England. Do I beg your pardon? Just promoted him, haven't I?
Exactly.
God, well, you know.
Mark Carney says that Britain is suffering from economic post-traumatic stress disorder after voting to leave the EU. He signalled the Bank of England was likely to take steps to support the British economy in the coming months, but he warned that the bank wouldn't be able to completely compensate for the shock caused by the vote result. Mark Carney says the UK is now facing geopolitical, economic and policy uncertainty.
All this uncertainty, the three components together, has contributed to a form of economic post-traumatic stress disorder amongst households and businesses and in financial markets. That is, people have become more cautious about their futures and more averse to making irreversible decisions that may be exposed to some form of future disaster risk.
So how did that affect the markets then, Stephen?
They were pretty pleased with it, actually. Everyone likes central bank stimulus if you're an investor, so there was the thought of more of it did give the market some cheer. Both on Thursday and again today, we have European markets opening up, as you can see at the start of the trading day. I mean, what a difference a week makes. We were talking about 1 week ago, massive falls across all of the European markets. London's FTSE 100 is now 700 points off the low that it hit in the wake of the Brexit vote and has surpassed the level that it was before the referendum took place. Banks leading the gains, they were the ones that were worst hit last week. The FTSE 250 index, though, it's worth pointing out, which is the index of more UK-centred companies, is still down compared to last week. On the Asian markets, we also had some gains as well. Those hint of central bank stimulus giving some cheer across Japan, Shanghai and on the Kospi in Seoul. Hong Kong is closed for trading today. On the currency markets, we had seen the pound weaken after those comments from Mark Carney in trading to under $1.33. That still hasn't recovered from last week, though. Before the referendum, the pound was hitting $1.50.
Well, let's move away from Europe now to Puerto Rico next. And President Obama has signed into law a plan to deal with the island's debt problem.
Puerto Rico has been struggling under a $70 billion debt mountain. It's been unable to restructure its debt or get a federal bailout because of its status as a US territory and not a state. The plan signed by President Obama will give the island some form of protection while it holds talks with creditors. But many in Puerto Rico aren't happy with the deal, as Josh Vardy now reports.
A US rescue plan for Puerto Rico's troubled economy. The island is $70 billion in debt and is facing its biggest ever default of $2 billion. But protesters surrounded federal buildings in San Juan, demanding the deal be stopped. Hours beforehand, US President Barack Obama had welcomed the deal as help for struggling Puerto Ricans who live in a US territory where the poverty rate is over 45%.
People of Puerto Rico need to know that they're not forgotten, that they're part of the American family.
After Puerto Rico scrapped tax breaks for American companies 10 years ago, businesses began pulling out from the island. Then the people followed. The economy went into recession and tax revenue dropped, so the government was forced to cut public services and raise taxes, forcing even more people to leave for the US mainland. Almost a decade later, the territory's been left facing a huge debt mountain, which this US rescue bill aims to reduce. The plan won't see any money given to the island, but rather legal protection from creditors and help with debt restructuring through a Washington-appointed board. These protesters worry that the government will be forced to continue the cuts that have already decimated Puerto Rico's public services. Puerto Rican authorities say they have no choice if they want to avoid the lengthy court battles triggered by the inevitable default on its debts.
In the United States, regulators have begun investigating a crash involving a Tesla Model S car that was driving on autopilot. The driver was killed when his car failed to brake as a truck moved in front of him on a road in Florida. It's the first fatality involving the autopilot system, and Tesla says the circumstances involved were exceptional.
And finally, Stephen, a familiar name from the entertainment world is trying her hand at a new business venture.
Kelis is best known for her song Milkshake, but she's quit the music business and has now opened a restaurant in London. After being released from her record deal, she attended the Cordon Bleu Culinary School. She's now teamed up with street food experts Le Bon for the pop-up eatery in London, opening for 4 dates in July. But will her milkshakes be bringing all the customers to the yard? Here's what she had to say to that.
I mean, it's pretty blatant.
Will you be adding milkshakes to the menu here?
You know what? You'll just have to wait and see.
So the answer is she could teach you, but you'd have to charge.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that to land, and there's nothing I could do about it. Thank you very much, business editor Stephen Carroll, with all the updates from the world of finance. Let's hop across the desk now, where